Stephen and Demetrius.
And Ellie and Felony.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to be mindful of everybody's time because I know it's valuable. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is when you get into a situation where you need to coach someone or counsel someone, talk a lot about how you can be approachable. And, you know, I'm going to kind of like, I like it to be a little engaging. So, you know, you can mute yourself, and then once you're willing to speak, you can unmute yourself. So if you're not muted right now, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. And when we talk about being approachable, not only to, you know, we're approachable to the guests, but also to our internal guests. What are some of the benefits of being approachable? And anyone can unmute themselves and throw it out there, throw out some of these things. What are the benefits of it?
Your employees trust you and they're like willing to like tell you if something's wrong.
Absolutely. You start to gain that trust. What are some other benefits?
It creates good communication throughout your staff and your management.
Absolutely.
Creates a better work environment.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Better, safer, more engaged work environment. Good. What else? Probably one of the big ones that I you know, like to point out to people is, you know, think about, and I'm sure all of you can relate to this, and it's happened to each of you too, probably at some point, where an employee doesn't show up. You know, maybe they're not showing up after they showed up one shift, here it's the next shift and they don't show up. You know, sometimes does that make you wonder, like, well, wonder what happened? Because you talk to them and they, you know, they were engaged on the shift. They seem to be able to do the job, but for some reason they don't show up. Does it ever make you wonder, like, what's going on with that? Or maybe after 2 weeks of working and they don't show up, you know, so by building a good rapport with your people, you know, you're going to be able to establish, you know, if there is a crisis or if there's something going on, they're going to be comfortable and maybe they'll alert you to what's going on. But there are times when that happens and there is not an answer to it either. Trust me, it's happened to me too, in the past also. But this is about creating relationships with the people that you work with and how that can benefit you. So I always say there's like the top 10 of how to be more approachable. So when you do have to counsel someone or you need to coach someone's performance to another level, you've already established that relationship with them. And then even though it's still difficult on us to do that, you can establish some comfortability also. So why don't we go ahead and kick it off with the first one? And I say it's 10 ways to upgrade your approachability. The first one is make the first move. What do you think I mean by that?
You're going to step up and greet them as they come in the door.
Absolutely, Gordon. Yeah. So, you know, we always have to be the first person. You know, we should be saying the hello. Have you ever worked with a manager that didn't say hello, came in, went right to the office and shut the door? Anyone work with someone like that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that make you feel in that moment? How did you feel when that happened, Gordon?
Like they really didn't care about what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe they're mad at me for something or they're having a bad day. Don't talk to them. So we should always be making the first move. We should always be saying hello. We should be, you know, saying please when we ask people to do things and thank you. I know that this is common knowledge, but there are times you know, that it's not getting done. So we need to think about that, especially with new people. They're not able to read you, and they're probably going to think that that isn't a good work environment. And it's probably somewhere that they probably are not going to feel comfortable at. So I say you acknowledge everyone, and you set the example for the rest of the people that are on shift, because if you're going to be able to do that, your other people are going to see that from you, and the other employees, they'll be greeting people. They'll be making it an environment that people want to work in. So it's about making everyone feel valued, you know, by getting to know them. I'm not, you know, I think you need to know things about people, and, you know, whether they're going to school, what are their interests, what's going on in their lives. You know, someone, you know, might have had a grandparent that passed away, you know, just whatever it is, it's important to know a little bit about what's going on with people. You don't need to overshare, but you should know things about your people that work for you. You should know if it's a high school student and that Friday nights are football night and they're going to probably want to go to the game. And the more information that you find out, the better that you're going to be able to accommodate their schedules, but you're also going to be able to know what their interests are, and you can ask questions and, you know, get more information to get to know them on a deeper level also. You know, just like we're doing with the orientations, we want to introduce crew members on their first day of work. You should introduce who they're working with, because they might have met that person on the first day, but they're probably not going to remember them on their first night of work. There's been crew members that'll come in and no one does an orientation and walks them around. And where are they? When they first come in the door, what do those crew members do if we never do an orientation and a walk through the store levels?
Crew members really won't talk to them. Like, they won't make the first move a lot of times.
Exactly.
Probably
They
just
never
like
make the first
probably.
move. And I don't know what's up with that, but the person will be standing at the greeting center and they're waiting for the manager to go and greet the new employee. And then it's kind of an awkwardness, you know, for all parties involved, if I would say that. So think about that, you know, making sure that you're doing those orientations, you're doing the walkthrough. Their first day, you're reintroducing them to people. Who's going to be their CDT that day? And, you know, where do they put their things? You know, they come in, they don't know all these things, and it's important for us to make them feel welcome to do that. You know, but when you make the first move, it sets the tone for the day, and it sets it as a positive one, because if you're positive, you're going to exude that positivity to other people, and it's going to continue to, you know, pretty much transcend throughout the entire store. Above all, someone mentioned communication. It improves our overall communication, the atmosphere of it. And then I also put on here about the awkwardness, because there's a lot of awkwardness, especially think about the 15-year-olds that start a job. You know, they're scared. You know, they're awkward. They're uncomfortable. You know, it's someone that's not outgoing, that's kind of quiet. You know, it's not really a great environment for them. But if we can set the tone and make the first move, it's going to be important. Moving on to being aware of your body language. This is a big one. Our body language says a lot about who we are and what we do. Especially our face. You know, sometimes we talk about this, you know, Linda says, oh, I got the resting bitch face, huh? You know, like you've just got that. So being aware of, you know, what your face does at certain circumstances, or, you know, when they come to you and they tell you about a guest, the reaction that you give them with your face, you know, just making sure that, you know, when someone's trying to talk to you about something, that you're smiling at them. If it's that kind of a situation, if it's a difficult situation, making sure that you're not nodding too much. I have that on here, like excessive nodding. You ever have someone when you're trying to talk to them and they're like, get on with it, get over. What exactly do you want? Like, are you rushing that person to finish what they're trying to tell you, instead of really being present in that moment and giving them your undivided attention? So just really be aware of your face and the expressions that you're making. The eyes. This is a big one. Have you ever talked to someone and they're looking around? Doesn't show interest to what you want to talk to them about. You know, it's not very sincere on their part. So really be mindful of the fact, yeah, there's a lot of chaos going on in the environment while you're running shifts and everything, but your eyes should be on the person, not glued on the person to the point it's creepy, but it should definitely be enough eye contact with that person that you're giving them your attention and you're showing interest in whatever they're talking to you about. The one big thing is our body language. You ever have someone that's got their hands in their pockets and they're like moving around and they're kind of distracting with their body language? What do you think that says to the person that they're talking to?
So they're not interested, like they just want to move on. Keep going.
Yeah, they want to
They're
get on
they're
with it. They
busy.
want to get over
Yeah.
they want to get their paperwork started for the end of the night or whatever it is. So really being aware of your arms. You know, they always say if your arms are open or on the sides, on your lap, you know, if you're one of those people, you know, that you're too much, you know, you talk too much with your hands, it can be distracting for that particular person. Excessive fidgeting is a big one. You know, I tend to like when it happens on a regular basis where my leg starts that little shaking and twitching of my leg, you know, whenever I'm doing something, and it's a nervous habit. And I have to always remember to put my hands on my hands on my leg, like knock it off. That's like, you know, you don't want to be doing that. So think about it. Someone's telling you someone passed away in their family, you know, that you're matching that same body language and same kind of energy level. If they're telling you something exciting, like I'm on homecoming court, you know, that you're showing some expression for that also. Or if they, you know, made this team that they were trying to play, or they got an A on their test, whatever it is, that you match their excitement and their interest on whatever they're trying to express to you. So body language is a big thing. Number 3, moving on to number 3, keeping the door open. How about if someone reads the quote that I have on there about the open door? Can you guys read the quote?
Most of our monitors are blocking the quote, actually.
Oh my goodness.
An open door policy doesn't do much for a closed mind.
All right. Very good. So what do you think that means?
If you're unwilling to listen to someone, then it's not really an open door policy.
Yeah. Big thing is, you know, there are times when we have sensitivity, you know, there's some confidentiality that needs to go on. That office door is going to be shut. You know, if you're having a counsel one of your employees, or you're having a difficult conversation with someone, you know, anything, or you're talking to HR on the phone. Yes, office doors should be closed. But most of the time, if you're in the office and you're working, we should probably have the door open. What do you think the reason is why would you want to keep it open, even whenever you're maybe putting an order in the computer?
So people know that you're available to be spoken to when they need something.
Yeah, absolutely. So that shows that you're connected with them, right? And that you're available, willing to have engagement and an engaging conversation with them. You know, if they've got a question, maybe it's a new recipe and it's someone in the prep room and they don't know what to do. Do they, you know, are they willing to come in, or do they see that you're too busy to ask the question? So it gives people the opportunity to ask you questions, express concerns that they may have. Also, you know, you can learn a lot by keeping the office door open. You can hear conversations that go on, right? And sometimes you're going to learn things about your building that you might not even know. You know, that maybe they're not going to tell you, but if you leave the office door open, sometimes you hear stuff amongst the crew members that's pertinent information for us, right? I have on here, it addresses issues or challenges proactivity. And, you know, what do you guys think what do you think about that? How does it do that?
Because you can hear anything that's going on outside the restaurant. So if there's any kind of problems or anything like that, you can overhear it and step in right away.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you an opportunity to go address it immediately. we talk about, having a working environment that's positive, and if something's going on toxic and there's gossip going on or whatnot, you're able to shut that down and eliminate those kind of issues. I have on here about the trust, that was mentioned earlier. And the big thing is it improves crew morale, the morale of the crew whenever they're able to talk to their manager throughout the day and ask questions or engage in conversation or whatnot. I told you that a closed door means you don't want bothered. You don't want to be interrupted. And it does keep people at a distance. It pretty much shows that you're trying to avoid or alienate them. Sometimes this is one of the big factors that we start to see in crew turnover too, because they can't relate to their manager and they can't build that relationship with them. And then ultimately it can impact the quality of the store's culture. And those are big things. I think, majority of the people that I've interviewed for management positions, and I've been sitting in on crew positions, working with managers on how to interview and stuff. Big thing people are looking for is positive work environments. I hear this all the time. They're looking for a good environment, to be in. And they want to make sure that if they're going to pull the trigger and switch jobs, that they're going to a better place than what they're currently in. I mean, are you still hearing those kind of things, or are you hearing other things? Are any of you interviewing now or no?
A few people that are leaving jobs, or that's why they left their last job, but it was crew or management, stuff like that.
Yeah. Have you ever heard that people quit managers? You ever hear that where people quit their managers?
Yes, they quit not their jobs.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
If it's a bad manager, then the people won't want to stay to work for them. But if it's a good manager, then they will. They love the jobs. It's just the management that they don't like. Yep,
exactly. All right, let's move on to number 4, which is practicing effective listening. This is a big thing. It's a gift to be a good listener, and you need to work on it. I tend to be pretty extroverted, but I've learned, there are times I just need to be quiet. And when I'm the most quiet is typically when I get the most information and I'm able to read someone better. So, just being mindful of that, like what is good listening? Good listening, it's about being attentive to whoever you're talking to. I think the one big thing is it's about keeping an open mind. And I think when you're getting into where you're counseling someone or coaching somebody, keep an open mind as to, what it is, that roadblock that person might have. Like, why are they not picking up, working online in the kitchen? What's the difficulty? Sometimes I start to listen to people that people learn 3 ways. They learn by hearing, they learn by seeing, and they learn by doing. And it's up to us to figure out which way that person is capable of learning the position. Someone can read things, comprehend it. Others can read it and they have no clue as to what they just read. They're not able to understand it. So they need, we get back to that whole PEDPOF and utilizing that on our shifts, that we can show people and demonstrate these things and then follow up to make sure that they've grasped the material. So think about that whenever we've got new employees. Sometimes we give up on someone because maybe that first, second, third night, they're not looking like a good fit. And then all of a sudden, voila, they got it. Somehow they were able to pick it up. But be mindful of the fact that they may not learn they may not learn the way you want them to learn. Okay. Showing interest in a person. I mentioned that, just really showing interest in what they're saying. Like if someone is having difficulty, ask them what's challenging you with this, just asking the questions. Like, I see that you're struggling with making these bowls online. There's a picture there. Are you looking at the picture? Whatever it is you know, what do we need to do? Because a lot of them don't have skills like that when they enter the workforce right now. And I'm sure a lot of you are seeing that, especially with the new workers. So just think about the way that you're approaching, the way you're interacting with them when they're having struggling times with that, okay? Giving them complete uninterrupted attention is very important. Hearing, this is a big one, hearing both content and feeling, the nonverbals. And what I mean about that is when someone tells you, I don't like the dish room. Okay, well, what is it about that particular job? Someone might not like getting their feet wet. And they don't like they don't like that. Or maybe the servers are not being nice to them on the other end of the island whenever they're pushing the glasses on their side or something. Like, what is it? Trying to really pay attention to that, because if you can tap into that, you could probably narrow down exactly what's going on with that person. And you may be able to address that. Maybe you're going to move them to another position. Okay. So trying to really understand what that person is all about. I think whenever you're interviewing, this is like the biggest one, and I've been teaching people this, is being able to give them some situations. You know, it's Friday night, the dish room is slammed. You know, you got dishes everywhere. How do you handle that stress? Some people can't. So maybe having them in the dish room by themselves on a Friday night probably isn't going to be successful for that particular person. It's probably going to add to their frustration. So trying to give them some opportunities to say exactly match those behaviors of the job to what it actually realistically is. You know, if they're working in the kitchen, how do you feel about working in the kitchen when it's hot? It's a fast-paced job. Tell me a time whenever, you know, you were able to pick something up and do it very quickly. So trying to match what you're trying to have them perform kind of sets them up for a little bit of success whenever they're choosing those particular positions. The one I put on here is asking clarifying questions. If you don't understand, then you need to continue to dig into it a little bit deeper. You know, if they say, I just don't like the dish room, you know, being able to ask them, what is it about it, the dish room, that you don't like? Is it because your shoes are getting wet? Is it the servers? You know, what is it? Is it the stress of having to know that you have all these dishes to push through? You know, whatever it is, trying to get down and narrow it down to it. Got to move my thing here. Okay, there we go. So what is not listening? I think anytime when we listen to someone and they're giving us information, we shouldn't be offering advice or solutions unless they're asking us, you know, what would you do? Or what do you think? Should I quit this job because I don't like this? Or do you think it's going to get better? Like, it's going to get better. Yeah, you should stick around. No, let's really listen to what the person is telling us. If they tell us that they're not a match for that position, then we should be listening to that and thinking, where else could they fit? You know, where would they belong in our restaurant? Making sure that we're not interrupting people. You know, that goes on a lot. When you interrupt people, what do you think happens to that person?
They feel as though they're not being heard and listened to, so they shut down and no longer want to communicate.
Exactly, exactly. So I put on there, be aware of not interrupting, trying to analyze something, problem solve it, and looking at errors or faults. Those are the big things. Is just because someone may feel a certain way, or they're not, their behavior is not the way that you want it to be, just try to, you know, understand it from their perspective. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 5. This is a big one, is breaking down the barriers. What do you think I mean by breaking down the barriers?
Breaking down the wall that people have built up so you can really get to know them.
Yeah, and that's tough to do, huh? It's tough to do those kind of things. Someone else, tell me some things that you do to break down the barriers with someone.
Just
I mean,
talk to
Maddie and Allison, you guys got a new district manager, so how are we breaking down the barriers?
trying to get to know you.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get to know you too. And I think we're, you work on a relationship. It is about trying to understand, like, where does that person come from, and what are they all about? What do they care about? So trying to learn some things. I think in today's society, it's big about us it's not all learning from one another. It's about learning from all of us, and everybody's got their talents, everybody's got their gifts. What do you bring to the table? And what can we learn from them and take with us to make ourselves better too? So breaking down the barriers, opening that lines of communication. It's about being accessible. That's a big thing, is being accessible. How many times are we running around a shift like we're with our chicken, what do we say, with our heads cut off, right? How often does that happen in our restaurants where you're running around?
Just about every day.
Yeah, pretty much every day. You're running around, you're on a mission and you guys got things. So really making sure that you do find the time to be accessible to people and that you're stopping and you're able to spend a little bit of moments with your crew members. Showing an interest, I mentioned this earlier about showing an interest in their lives. You should know basic information about your people. You should know, like, I try really, really hard every restaurant that I go into to learn about people. Are they college students? And this one wants to get to do an internship. Sometimes I don't learn things unless I ask questions. I found out someone was a business major this past week. They're going to want to start gaining some skills on that. Could they be an open to 11, 8 to close person? I'm always thinking about, what can I teach someone and what can they learn from us? And even though that person may not stick around for a long period of time, they may help me for a year by opening to 11 and 8 to close. And that would benefit us, so really trying to learn that kind of information from them. I think the big thing is being transparent and real. So when a difficult conversation does happen, like if someone is just not getting, like, they're breaking dishes in the dish room, you got to have a real conversation with them and let them know, how they're handling those small wares. Sometimes letting them know what the cost it is, when they're breaking that product, that costs, every time you break a platter, that's $3.50 and you just broke 5. And how does that impact them? If they continue to break dishes, how's that going to impact someone?
It's going to impact the store because we're going to be rebuying them. So that's taking money from another area that could have done things such as pizza parties for the employees or birthday celebrations, things like that.
Yeah, or it's going to take away from their raise. Maybe it's going to take away from the raise if they continue to break things, or maybe they're not going to be working dish room much longer, So just really making sure that you're being real with them whenever there's something you need to, coach them on during your shifts as you're walking around. Continue to mention trust and how that trust is perceived by them. Is it genuine or is it not? If they don't feel that they can trust you, they're not going to tell you things. They're not going to tell you that they're unhappy or they didn't like their raise or they heard that this person got more money than they did. They're not going to be able to express that to you. So we need to really, really work on being genuine when we're having those kind of conversations. I wrote on here about also developing that level of comfort with one another, learning to appreciate the openness that you will have with one another. And I think it's important to be straightforward. If they're going to tell you something and it's going to be a no, even though it may be difficult for you to say that, like say, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that at this time, with your raise. Maybe they were hoping for $1. Unfortunately, I can't do this at this time. But if you're willing to, get to be a steak cook and you're able to open and you're able to close the kitchen, well, then I'll be able to offer you some more money. So this is what I need you to work toward. It's a difficult conversation, but you're giving them some goals and opportunities to realize that you're willing to give them the extra money, but it's going to require them to do something on their part also. So that is really, really important to be able to do that. Be straightforward, consistent with your actions. And this is the biggest one of all. If you tell someone you're going to do something and you promise them, I'm going to give you Friday off and you put them on the schedule, it's going to be a problem. You broke trust. You just went back several steps with that particular person. So make sure that you're honoring your promises and commitments that you make towards people. You're telling them you're going to get $1 when they get on that grill and they're able to cook on a Friday night and they're able to do a decent job and make it and do a nice close and a nice open and get feedback, then you let them know that raise is going in for you. Okay. Like really follow through with that because that is so important to people. All right, moving along. Asking powerful questions. This is a big thing. I'm actually certified as a professional coach. And one of the biggest things we do is we ask a lot of questions. And when we ask questions, be mindful of the kind of questions that you ask. If you're asking a lot of whys to people, what happens? Why can't we get that grill cleaned? What does the person on the other receiving end feel?
That you're just putting them down and questioning the quality of their work and not really giving them any praises.
Yeah, when they become very, very defensive when you are asking a lot of whys. So whenever I'm looking for something from a particular person, I might ask them, I don't want to solve everybody's problems. I might say, how do you think we could do that? You know, if it's a cleaning project, maybe the grill's just not getting cleaned enough and it's, you know, looking terrible. What do they, if they're a steak cook, what can they do to help us? How do you think you can help me to get this grill looking better? You know, you close 5 days a week. What can you possibly do? I guarantee it. If you give them the opportunity, they'll come up with a solution. You know, maybe they're going to tell you, oh, they only let me use 1 packet of cleaner. Anyone do grill cooking that you have to clean the grill with 1 packet? Is it a struggle? It's a struggle. You need the 2 packets, right? So, you know, maybe your store manager is like, oh, we're going to save money by only using 1 packet. You're never going to get the grill clean with 1 packet. I mean, you're asking them to do a whole lot of manual labor, a lot of muscle of putting into that, and it's still not probably going to be clean to your liking. So always, even when you start your pre-shift meetings, you got a server average check you're trying to hit. I don't normally say, you know, whenever I was a assistant manager or dining room manager, I never said, this is what we're doing tonight. I just would say, hey, our average check's going to be $19 tonight. What do you think you can do? Sometimes ask the people during your pre-shift meetings that are actually getting it done now. So if someone's consistently hitting it, what do you do? You know, what do you do? How do you get to the $19? And I think people hearing it from their peers is always better than always hearing it from the manager too. You know, I mean, someone that works that particular job all the time, they've got skills, you know, they've got talents and they've got a way that they're saying it. And I think if you ask them, one, it promotes some positivity, gives them an opportunity to shine in that moment, but it also teaches other people, you know, just say, oh, okay, sell me some shrimp. Tell me how you're going to do that add-on shrimp. And it's just what comes out of their mouth. It just comes out so beautiful that you're like, yeah, I think I'm going to buy that shrimp tonight because they just have a way of saying it, you know, that makes it easier for other people to pick up. So I always say, never ask open, you know, the yes or no. You shouldn't be asking yes or no. You want to ask so that you're able to engage in that conversation and you're able to get the information you want. So a lot of the what and how kind of questions. I did put in there about whys or confrontational, so definitely avoiding that. And I think the big thing is you're going to ask a question. You want to ask that server how they do it. Let's make sure we're willing to listen too and give that person the floor so that they can share that information. Big thing is don't ever interrogate someone during these situations. And if you can use the person's words whenever you're actively listening and ask a follow-up question, it's even more beneficial. If you could say, oh, so I'm understanding that you're only able to use 1 packet. What would happen if you use 2 packets? You know, so you're finding out the details. And then you can go back to your GM and find out what is the reason we're only using 1 when we know we need 2. And letting your GM know that if we want clean grills, this is what we're going to have to do. And this person would be on board with that. Anytime you're asking any kind of questions, you're gathering information. You're trying to learn something yourself from their perspective, but you're also trying to teach at that moment also and able to educate other people. This does create productive and effective communication for everyone involved, and it adds value. When you're engaging with your people and you're asking questions, they're engaged in what's going on. They feel like, you know, that their work that they're doing in your stores is important to you too. You know, so they feel valued and they feel that that they're seen and they're heard by their managers. And that's really important to people right now in today's society. Everybody wants to feel that way. They want to feel part of a team. They want to feel included. It gives them an opportunity to think and find their own solutions. This is a big one. I don't want to, whenever I'm asking things on my huddles, I want my managers to tell me what they do, because all of them have a great way of figuring things out on how to get something cleaned and what made it successful and easy for them to do. They already know how to solve it. So why do I need to even try to find the solution? They already can share that information with everybody else. And most of the talking, and this is very, very important. It's not only when you're interviewing, but it's also when you're engaging in conversations. When you're trying to get information, how much talking do you think we should actually be doing as the manager and the person, like the crew member that's being engaged? How much of that should be us?
As minimum as possible to give them the opportunity to let us know as much information as possible.
So if you put a percentage on it, Ashley, what percentage would you think?
I would say about, 10% us, 90% them.
And that would be huge. If you could get 10% and 90, that would be fabulous.
Yes.
They say 80-20 is probably realistic.
Right.
So just be mindful when your guys are out there and having these conversations that you're, oh my gosh, I'm talking too much. I need to, because you're trying to gather information too. Is this person the right fit for the job? So thinking about that, making sure that they get to do most of the talking. Number 7, share information to prepare others for success. This is a big thing. We put the Hosta Happen out every week. How often, and you don't have to do a show of hands, but how often is that Hosta Happen shared with everybody in your store?
We post it here up on our bulletin board, but if we don't individually walk up to employees and read it off with them, then they don't really stop in their day to take a look at it. So no, they don't get to know about it unless there's something that we feel as though we have to go up to them to make sure they know about, like new specials that are coming.
Yeah, and that's where you can ask those questions. You can say, hey, what did you learn off the Hosta Happen that I posted? You can follow up to see if they didn't learn anything. And if they didn't, instead of attacking them, right, you could be just asking them, well, why don't you go ahead and read it, and I'll be back around. I'll make my rounds and I'll go to the salad bar and talk to them about something. And then it gives them an opportunity to read it. You don't have to single them out that they didn't read it and they didn't learn it, but it would get them in a habit of doing it on a regular basis. And you could let them know, I'm going to post that on a weekly basis. And I just want you to be informed. I want you to be able to do your job and do it successfully. So make sure you're reading that every week. Move on, come back. You can ask some questions. Maybe it is a special, something that's going on, or maybe we're struggling with not giving out a sauce, or we're automatically putting sour cream on the plates and it's costing us food costs. Just kind of really following up with the Hosta Happen and making sure that that's getting posted. Same thing with the memos. And keep in mind that what I said earlier, people learn seeing, hearing, and doing. Someone could read that and have no comprehension of what they just read off that Hosta Happen. That's where we need to provide the extra details and things. So sharing the information, it gives us opportunities to mentor, coach, Also gives us the opportunity to grow and develop our people so they can continue to gain experience and knowledge, right? The transparency about being honest, what's on the house to happen, you know, or if there's accidents, whatever it is, unsafe environments, like having those kind of difficult conversations, all of that builds trust. When you tell people, I don't want anyone falling, we really need to work on getting the food and the ice off the floor. The worst thing is when someone has an accident in your store. Right, Linda?
Yes, absolutely. It's not a lot of fun. We had a
Yeah.
little run there and yeah, it's not
Yeah,
pleasant for anyone.
No. When something happens to one of our teammates, it's not fun. So what do we need to do to prevent those kind of things and letting them know that we care about them, we care about their safety, we want to keep them upright, whatever it is, letting them know those kind of information. Suggestions. Listen, I get a lot of suggestions as a district manager. And sometimes people want to do things and it's just not part of our company's culture. It's not part of the Haas way, you know, so there's times I have to say no. And it's okay to say no to people. But if you're going to say no, what's the biggest thing that you need to follow up with?
Explain to them why. Treat them like a human being and don't just be a dictator and say, nope, this is the way it is, you know, like take it or leave it. Like, I don't want anybody to talk to me like that. Whenever I'm training people, I give them reasons for everything that I'm showing them to do.
Yep.
Because it's easier in some ways, it's easier to understand it whenever you give them the reasoning behind it. And another thing, like, I consider them a thinking, intelligent person that would use that information wisely.
Absolutely. So you said it beautifully, so I don't even have to get into that, but taking it and being honest, but give them the whys. Why can't we do it that way? What is the reason? It's not part of our company culture. It's okay to tell them that. But you know what? I think I always like to follow it up with it. I like your creativity. I like that you're thinking. Keep it up. You know, I keep doing that. You know, there's other things that they could probably bring to your attention would really benefit the store, you know? Remain open, answer the questions, explain the reasoning, like she said. By doing this, it eliminates unpleasant surprises. When you share things with people, you know, and someone's not weighing their chicken in the prep room for the soup, or they're not, you know, they're cooking raw meat in the prep room. I mean, they're going to know what's going on. They're going to know that, you know, we're not permitted to do that because, you know, it's a health reason. It's a sanitation reason why we never have raw meat in our prep rooms. They're going to know that. So you probably won't have to worry about something like that. I have on here, it develops a level of comfort by not only sharing the good news, but also bad news. Awareness, how everyone is capable of contributing and adding value. Every single person brings something to the table. And if you don't tap into what that person's talent is, you may never know. They may leave and give it to someone else, another business. The other one I have is it promotes understanding and appreciation for others and their responsibilities. You know, it appreciates our cooks when we share things with them that is important, and we listen to what they have to say, because maybe they're the ones that do the job every day. They may have a great idea on how something could go easier or smoother for us. You know, maybe they're going to say, we need to check this at 4 o'clock, you know, whatever it is. Maybe to make sure we have our backups done on salad bar so that we're not running out of everything at night. So listening to them too. Number 8, this is a big one. Empathy is a big one. Who wants to read that?
Empathy is seeing with the eyes of another. Sorry, my eyes are bad. With the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another.
What does that really mean?
Not just like hearing them, but like trying to relate and show emotion.
Anyone else want to add something else to that?
It's like trying to put yourself in their shoes and understand how they're feeling and why they're feeling that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my number one thing is just putting yourself in their shoes. You know, I mean, if I had a work dish room, my feet are going to be wet and it's going to be gross. I mean, I worked in the dish room in Mother's Day in Meadville last year. I literally smelled like smelled hot dog water the whole way home. And I had to drive an hour and 45 minutes with the window down because that's what my feet stunk like. It was so bad. So understanding that and knowing that that can be really disgusting, it exists. That's the reality of the job, right? So, you know, just being aware of that. I think you always need to imagine what someone's thinking and feeling in that particular moment. And if you can be empathetic to someone, you can really tap into some amazing emotions with people, you know, and be really understanding and, you know, just being able to feel things for people and make them know that that's touched you in a way, you know. Like I have on here, it's a deeper understanding of their situation, their issue, you know, like a single mom that's coming to work. She's late every single time. You know, she's supposed to be at 4 o'clock. She doesn't get there till 4:15. How many times do we just continue to schedule her at 4 o'clock without asking her, you know, is there an issue with you being scheduled at 4? Only to find out, like when we do ask the questions, like what's the issue is maybe they have to drop off their children and the dad's late every single time. You know, and trying to understand that maybe would 4:15 work better for you? Can I schedule you that? Like sometimes we don't have to be so rigid. We need someone exactly at 4. Maybe they're going to be the third person that comes in at 4:30. So it's really trying to understand that person from their perspective. I think it's always important, you know, like acknowledge someone's feelings. So when a high school person tells you they had a breakup, that's pretty devastating for a high school person. Might be their first relationship that they had, and that can be devastating. And maybe they're not going to be on their A game that night at Salabar. Maybe they're going to be struggling, and maybe you'll get them out early so that they can go home, you know, or be with their friends. I think it's important to always remain open-minded. I have on here about asking those questions always, practicing your active listening skills. And I think if you can help, like someone tells you that they did break up with someone, is there anything I can do to help you? Sometimes they might say, can I have a hug? Someone wants a hug, I'll give them a hug. Or maybe they just want to know that I listened to them and I heard what they said. And I can understand because we all probably had a breakup in our life, right? You know? And I think the biggest thing is anytime someone tells you some things like that, following up with them. The single mom, the next time she worked, she's there at 4:15. Acknowledge it. I see that you're here at 4:15. Is that working better for you? Just asking the questions, letting them know. Number 9 is recognizing people. I think it's so important for us to recognize positive behaviors. It's always great to tell people thank you, especially when they get things done. You can offer positive feedback to someone, you know, when you're walking through the station or the kitchen. You guys are nailing it tonight. You're crushing it. Those ticket times have been right on. Thank you. Thank you for getting it done tonight. You know, just reinforcing any kind of positivity because positivity promotes more positivity. Utilizing those pre-shift meetings. Too often I see a lot of people not even having a pre-shift meeting. So anything that you can do prior to that shift to make your job a little bit easier, the shift to run a little more smooth, do the pre-shift meetings. Let them know what your expectations are. I can always remember whenever I managed shifts, I always told people at the beginning of the shift, hey, tonight's PM is this. Just going to give you a heads up early so that you can plan your night accordingly in order to get it done. No one wants to hear at 8 o'clock at night, well, don't forget you have to do this, because it can just, you know, it can put everything into craziness at that point. I always like to give a heads up to people like, these are my expectations for the shift, or this is what I want to see. You know, we struggled with ticket times. Tonight, I really want to see us where we can actually hammer down and deliver on these ticket times. What do you think you can do to make that happen tonight? Just asking them. It's a basic conversation. Develops repeat behaviors. And always remember, our people are our most valuable resource. That's the biggest thing. This will improve morale, decrease turnover, and as I mentioned, store culture is a big thing. And then above all, listen, celebrating. If something goes really, really well, we all have those employee funds, using that and celebrating the successes. Someone standing out, maybe you're going to get them a gift card. I really love that a couple of my stores, they actually, when something really is amazing, they actually take a thank you. And every single manager writes something in this thank you card, put a gift card in there, hand that to one of your employees. And what do you think their reaction is going to be? Getting a card, knowing that every single manager in that building is appreciating them. You're able to do that. Someone that's standing out, recognize them. Creates that positive work environment that we're all looking for. The loyalty amongst the entire team continues to develop. You've got people that are engaged and they're productive. So they're going to get the job done for you. The commitment, job satisfaction is going to be there on their end. And it reduces people's stress. I think we're all dealing and seeing a lot of this going on with people being in stressful situations. How do we reduce that? No one wants to work in a chaotic environment. So what can we do to make it so it isn't like that? There are times in the heat of the moment, we've got a line out the door and it's going crazy, right? But what do we do to calm that as managers instead of pushing that on our people? And then I think above all, you want to be the employer of choice. You get a good apple, you want that apple to bring a couple more good apples. You want their friends to work there, because when their friends work there, we know that they're going to stick around, because kids right now today, they want to work with their friends. So how do you use this when you coach and counsel someone? How would you be able to use some of this information when you're going to coach someone on being late? Anyone that wants to share, how could you use some of these approachability things?
I just had a situation come up like that. I finally got to do my first two evaluations for employees, and one girl that has been here for 16 something years, she's one of our servers, and she's constantly about 10-15 minutes late. And I did put an eval about her having to work on getting here on time, leaving a little bit earlier. And then I was informed by her, which I didn't know, this is actually her second job. This is her part-time. I knew she only worked here on certain days of the week, but I didn't realize it was because she worked another job. And when she leaves there, she comes straight here. So I pretty much kind of talked to her about it and told her I'd be a lot more lenient on that. And if she's scheduled to be here at 4, for her it would be 4:15 because of her having another job and me not being aware of it. So I had actually already did that with an employee. So I'm kind of glad to hear you saying that.
Yeah, you make adjustments. And I think, the way that you show that you care about the one person shows everybody else in your building how you're going to care about them when that situation comes and they're faced with that. And they have to have that difficult conversation with you, right? It does. It really does show that. Anyone else want to share like how you could use this when you're counseling, or how you could coach someone on a shift?
Everyone's shy.
I don't know why. Boy, what are you going to do when we have to do role playing next time I see you?
I actually had to coach an employee who, he was a really good employee, and he definitely recently had started slacking off a lot, not wanting to jump in, not wanting to help things. I ended up pulling him in and kind of talking to him. And like the biggest thing for me was just understanding his side. Like I was asking him, like what was going on in your life that you started acting this way. I reminded him like the performance we had seen from him before. And then he actually opened up about a lot of struggles in his life and like just feeling burnt out by a lot. So I was able to take that and understand his side of it. And then together we actually came up with a game plan to get him back to where he needed to be, while also seeing that he had our support to do so.
Okay, so
helped
out
a
of the
lot.
approachability things, I'm hearing empathy, You had some empathy for what he was telling you? What else what other ones?
Wait, refer back to my notes. So it was definitely empathy. It was also just understanding, like I had to actually listen to his problems. So I definitely had to practice effective listening with that and understanding what was going on. I had to, break down the challenges that he had that was keeping him from being a good performer again for us. So it was
Right,
definitely
and-
a lot of things.
No, I really, you're right. You actually tapped into multiple ones. So I think anytime you guys are into these situations, always remember, what are the behaviors? So when you're struggling, you don't always have to address something right at that particular moment. You can address it in 15 minutes and go and take a look at the employee eval or the employee handbook and say, what behaviors do they do? What are they doing really well? What are their opportunities? So what can we do to get them to move forward and take a step towards that, that opportunity to improve their behavior? So I always start with, it's always good to tell someone, like you said, you've always been a great employee in the past. We were able to count on you. You were a CDT for us, whatever it is, whatever they did in the past, your meals always looked great, but I can tell that, you've slacked off and your interest in your job is gone. Just trying to figure out like what's going on, like asking the questions and then getting them back on track by saying, okay, how can we move forward and that we can move back towards a better place where you're at and where I'm going to be happy too. Really taking those opportunities and making that happen. Because I never like to start with, well, you're positive at this, but you're negative at this. Nope. These are opportunities that you can improve upon. Okay. All right. We'll take one more person to share something. Who wants to share another thing that you can utilize some of this information?
I've had a couple situations in the little bit of time that I've been here.
Okay.
I have a salad bar attendant. She's young. I'm older, like to carry on, not pay attention to the salad bar. And I had a conversation with her and it's like, hey, what's going on? You have to understand, the salad bar's a big thing. Everybody hits it. And she was just saying that, the conversation that we had is I was never shown exactly what I need to do. So I kind of took her under my wing and I kind of, let's go through and you tell me what you know and what you were shown. And then we'll go from there. Then I'll let you know what needs to be done and the expectations that we expect out of you. So on Sunday, we were a little bit busy and here she comes out to me. She says, can I help you clean off tables? Sure. But it's the respect that I have out of everybody here that like I said, I've only been here for like maybe 3.5 months, but I have gained so much respect from the people that work here and it's amazing. They're not afraid to come up and talk to me about anything. They're not afraid to do anything, but I always follow up with them. It's like, how was that situation? How did we handle it? Okay. How do you feel that it was handled? So it's been really good. And then I had a host that wanted to work a weekend and he gave us information for his schedule, but then he wasn't scheduled. So he says, can I have a conversation with you? And it's like, sure. And he explained, I'm living on campus and I'm, because I thought I was going to work. So I left a note in the manager's book and it's like, hey, Riley is, available, to work. And then we got him back on the schedule. So, and then he came back and he says, thank you so much for helping me out with that. And it's like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So those situations.
I love that. I love all that you just said. I'll leave you with 2 things. One, we've added a lot of people to our rosters, a lot of people, a lot of teammates on in our stores. And a lot of them did not get CDTs and they did not get the training. So any teachable moment that you can, you know, spend with someone, those little moments can turn into bigger things. Okay.
yeah.
And you're going to see benefits if you take the time to do that. And then the last thing I'm going to put you with is she tapped on respect. Just because we have a title, respect is earned. Like you said, it's earned.
Yes.
It's earned by your actions. It's earned by your words. So just
Exactly.
be mindful of those kind of things. I really enjoyed spending time with all of you. I will see you in person graduation day. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Hey,
Thank you.
everybody,
you.
next week,
And-
2 more Zooms and then the in-person on the 27th. So just
All
kind of
right.
wanted to remind you. Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody. Thank you, Ann.
All right. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
And